All right, so we have our login page now, and let's get into designing our tutorial page. Let's go back to my sketch just to see what we have over here. So I was thinking we should do a blur background of this screen right here. So when the user taps on the tutorial, it will just go ahead and blur the background of here. And then a little pop-up here with the title and the body text over here. Maybe a little vector that we can use to show that step. That would be pretty cool. So let's get started into designing that. So in this lesson, we're going to play around with effects to add kind of a background blur to this page and then build on top of that. So what we'll need to do is actually copy all the elements in here into our tutorial as well. And you'll see why in a second. So let's go ahead to our login frame here and actually go ahead and just select everything here. Go ahead and use Command C or Control C to copy. Head on over to your tutorial page and make sure you have the tutorial page selected, and then do Command V. And then go ahead and actually use Command G to group all of that together into one element. This way we just have a simple group over here. I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally move things around. And now go ahead and create a rectangle by pressing the R tool from the top corner over here all the way down to the bottom. So once you have that rectangle here, let's go ahead and change the fill to black. And then let's change the opacity to, let's do, I think 55% looks good. So now go over to effects, create a new effect by pressing the plus sign here. And then click the drop shadow and change that to a background blur. So now, as you can see, it adds a nice background blur to my rectangle here. And so what that does is that it blurs everything underneath it because this layer is on top of the whole group that we created from essentially this page here. That just went ahead and blurred everything underneath that rectangle. If you place things on top of this rectangle, it won't be blurred, which is what we want. You can tweak the blurriness of your background blur by clicking this icon over here and changing the number here. So right now it's 4, but we can do 10 or we can do 15 if you want more blur. I think for us, I'm going to do 8 for now. I think 8 would work, or even 6. Now let's go ahead and create a rectangle for the background of my tutorial. Press R. Let's drag one. I think based on my sketch, something like this would look good. I'll just let go over there. Use the align tool here to make sure it's centered. Let's change the fill color to white. Let's go ahead and round the borders to, let's do 25 pixels. I think that looks good. And now we need 2 texts in here, one for the title. So let's do T and type in title. Why don't we set the font here to 22? Let's go ahead and just select both of these and use the alignment tool. Let's go ahead and just duplicate this text holding Alt and do body here. And let's go ahead and change the bold to a regular and a font size of 14. Now you'll notice that if I start typing here, let's just type something random in here, the text will keep going on and on and on, which is not what we want for our tutorial. For our tutorial, we want a little paragraph type of text here. So this is where your text bounding box comes into place. If you resize your text here, now you can choose what the width of it will be, and then now you can go ahead and just center that here. Just to again make sure all these are centered together. And now if I add more text into here, it will be bound by that box. So in our resources, we have this appnotes.txt. Go ahead and open that up. And you'll notice that we have tutorial steps in here. So the first steps text is over here. So let's go ahead and just copy that over into here. That looks a little bit better. Let's go ahead and just resize that. And again, make sure it's centered. Let's go ahead and do an align center for the text. I think we can do a font size of 16 here to make it look a little bit better. And for the title, let's go ahead and just set it to browse. Let's go ahead and actually group this whole thing together by selecting everything here, Command G, make sure it's centered again. Let's go ahead and bring these a little bit down. And let's go ahead and add another rectangle for our button here. Let's do 55 for the height. And I think that looks good. I just want to make sure that this also matches the width of my button. I'm going to change my button fill to, by using styles, I'm going to change the button background to the blue. And now let's go ahead and add a border radius of 8 here. And then go ahead and add a text inside for next. Change the color to white. And just go ahead and center these together, group them together, and let's just go inside here and center the text here. That looks good. Now let's go ahead and add some vector icons. So again, in the resources, if you go to icons and go into tutorial here, you'll see we have 3 vectors that we can use for our steps. So let's go ahead and actually just drag them all into my Figma file here. If I go back, Figma's placed them all side by side, which is cool. But let's go ahead and first resize that because they're huge. Let's go back in here. I think we can do a little bit bigger than that. Let's just go ahead and move these ones out of the way for now. Now keep in mind, vector icons like SVGs show up as frames in your project. So make sure you treat it as a frame when you're moving around. So let's go ahead and find this frame for this icon here and actually drag it inside of our group here. So if I scroll down, I'll see tutorial, and then this is our group. Let's just place that inside of here. And then while holding shift, I'm gonna center both of them. I'm gonna make sure that, and I think we can add a little bit more spacing to our text here. And I think that's starting to look good. So why don't we go ahead and actually add styling to the icon here by choosing our color styles and maybe choosing the secondary option. And then for our title or the text over here, changing this to the blue maybe. I think we can even make this a little bit bigger. Let's try 24 and then go ahead and select these 2 together to center them. And make sure everything here is centered as well. And it looks like it is. So there you have it. That's our tutorial. To create the last 2 steps, why don't we go ahead and select this whole frame here and do Command D twice to duplicate it twice. And then let's just zoom out, select these 2 frames and just move them right underneath. And doing the same thing over here. So then let's go ahead and rename this one to tutorial step 2. Rename this one to tutorial step 3. And then of course, let's do tutorial step 1. Now we're gonna go ahead and just quickly change the content in here. So let's do 2. Let's go back to our text file here, and it looks like this one's about request. Paste that text into here. And then let's go ahead and use Command X or Control X on Windows to cut that icon out of there, and to replace it with this one, I'm just going to click where it is and then go ahead and just paste right there using Command V or Control V. Now it looks like it did put this inside of the frame of the other one. So let's go ahead and drag it outside of the frame of the other icon and then delete the other icon. Now we still do want to apply the orange fill, and that looks good for our step 2. Next one is our step 3. Go back here again. Rename this one to clean clothes. go ahead and paste that in here. Let's select everything and the text here and just center that along. And then of course, let's go to our last vector here and using Command X again. Paste that into here, and then just making sure that's outside of this, deleting the shop vector, and then changing the style to orange. Let's go ahead and change the text here to done, because at this point the users completed the tutorial, so they're going to be done with the tutorial. So there we have it. That's our tutorial, step 1, step 2, and even step 3.